Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you're doing well and you are ready for today's program. Because today, you may have guessed it, it's Friday. You know what that means. We have Ralph Bond. And Ralph Bond is our science and tech trends correspondent. And we cover a number of stories. We'll get to that number later. But a number of stories that are hopefully good, positive, things that you want to hear about on a Friday. Because sure, we could leave you with plenty of other news stories this week. But ladies and gentlemen, these stories are going to be a lot of fun. I mean, just browsing real quick. We're going to see some medical research. We're going to see synthetic skin. I mean, I don't know how many other places you listen to that are going to be talking about cephalopod-inspired, if I can say that right. Synthetic skin, stuff like that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a lot of fun. ComputerAmerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including the show notes. Show notes are super helpful. Ralph puts a lot of effort into them and make sure that they are not only informative and have everything that we talk about, but they're just, kind of broken down, simple, easy to read. And if you want to find out more, hey, go to the show notes, ComputerAmerica.com. At the top, we have a section for Ralph Bond, and you can see all of his past shows. Because, if you're, maybe on a long car drive, you're doing something, flying over oceans and stuff like that, visiting beautiful France or something like that, then hey, maybe you have some time on your hands and you want to listen to some of Ralph's past shows. They're very future-proof, I assure you. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and just bring Ralph on and start having fun with it. So, everyone, let's go ahead and, once again, our science and tech trends correspondent, longtime Computer America contributor, and, of course, all-around good guy. Ralph, how you been?
Doing great, and it's great to be back. And, friends, if you're new to the show, what Ben and I do each Friday is highlight 4 recent articles that show us key trends and developments in a whole range of things: artificial intelligence, of course, robotics, medical technology, sustainable energy technology, transportation advances, construction technology, agricultural technology, space research, physics. It goes on and on, you name it. But like Ben was alluding to, most important of all, we're going to give you an oasis of positive news thanks to the world of science and technology.
Absolutely. And I think story number 1 kind of alluded to it there in the intro, but let's tell the nice folks about who is doing what with what.
Yeah, this is great. And this is a really wonderful example of a trend to draw inspiration from nature for the development of technologies. For example, recently, they've been looking at the silence of owls to develop noise suppression technology. Yep. That's a great example of that kind of linkage between nature and science. This first story is a perfect example of that. This comes from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, their website, their announcement. And the headline, Husker, which again refers to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, researchers developing cephalopod-inspired synthetic skins. Irresistible headline.
I can't imagine how they even got the, and I'm sure, they'll probably talk about it, but I can't imagine how they got the inspiration for this.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's a whole story behind that as well. And again, Ben mentioned the show notes. Come out there to the show notes, especially if you're listening to us as a podcast, because we'll have links to the story. I embed additional information often. And in this case, you can also get a link to the research paper if you want to super geek out on what we're going to just now talk about. So let's get into this story. Taking a cue from ocean-dwelling species, University of Nebraska-Lincoln researchers are developing synthetic skins that will support the emergence of next-generation soft machines, robots, and other devices. This is a really, really weird and interesting story. The skins closely approximate the mechanical action of chromatophores, found in cephalopods. And cephalopods are squids, octopi, cuttlefish, and other species. And some chromatophores are micrometer to millimeter scale organs that contain pigment sacs that become more visible as small radial muscles pull on the sac, making the pigment expand under the skin. And these tiny structures are responsible for the astonishing ability of these creatures, again, squids, octopi, cuttlefish, etc., their amazing ability to change color and pattern of their outer skin in real time. Whoa, really freaky. If you've ever seen a video of this, run and check it out because it's just so spooky to see what these creatures can do. There you go, getting a video now. That's perfect.
Yeah, I was just about to pull one up. Trying to figure out which one of these where it squids kind of go from like white to like flashing red as a sign of like mating and whatnot. I'll probably find another video if you're watching the video portion. We'll pull it up there, but it's I can see now why they chose that kind of type of skin. It's almost like an LED screen, but embedded in skin.
And it's very opportune that you're mentioning that screen issue because we'll get to that at the end of this little story here. Mm-hmm. So the chromatophores, that's the biological thing that makes these creatures able to change color and pattern in real time. And their purpose is for camouflage, for communication with each other, and to also further camouflage themselves by breaking up body outlines to confuse visual predators. So it's a really fascinating thing. And also, it's an environmental adaptation. Some species can adjust brightness based on ambient light, possibly using light-sensitive proteins in their skin. So there's a lot going on in the skin of these creatures, and these researchers looked at this and said, hey, wait a minute, we can take some of the principles that are involved with what these animals do and apply it to our purposes of making synthetic skin with similar properties. So Stephen Moran, in fact, a moment ago, you showed a flash of this two scientists involved, who's the author of a new paper in the journal Advanced Materials, noted, quote, we're working in an emergent area sometimes called autonomous materials. Here's a new one for us, Ben, autonomous materials. Autonomous materials, he goes on to say, have the ability to interact, sense, and react with their environment in the absence of user input. My add-on to this comment, in other words, it just happens without conscious effort or thought. That's a key here.
Yeah, or even just like pre-programming or even computers or anything like that.
Yeah.
It just happens. That's talk about fail-safe,
Yeah, there you go. So these synthetically developed soft skins mimic the cephalopods' color switching and led to the fabrication of stretchable arrays of microstructured stimuli responsive versions, the lead researcher noted, Dr. Moran. And multiple layers of these synthetic chromatophores could be programmed to respond to specific environmental stimuli, making them well suited for applications in soft robotics and human-machine interfaces. So again, the creatures do it without thinking or effort, but they're talking about taking the essential kind of color and form shifting of skin of these creatures, but programming it for applications in soft robotics and human-machine interfaces. So it's kind of a hybrid response. And other possibilities, these materials could be used as environmental sensors and for information display and signaling, in some cases replacing existing display technologies that are electrically powered and require rigid, inflexible components such as computer screens. So you see how weird they're thinking about taking this synthetic skin and maybe applying it as a display technology. And that could include display and reporting technologies that are inherently stretchable and conformable. Whoa, okay.
So now you have to worry about your Jumbotron getting sunburned because it's covered in skin, which is in itself a very appealing thought. So,
well, the implications are pretty profound if you stop and think about it. What if you had a display technology that's conformable and stretchable like your skin? That's what they're talking about, which I think is so cool. And the lead researcher, again, Dr. Moran, said you could have a wearable technology that simultaneously reports the temperature, pH, humidity, all sorts of different parameters in a given environment. Doing that with traditional technologies, it would be challenging to measure all of those at the same time. So these guys have got a lot going on. What we do in this show, folks, is just give you bare bones highlights from these articles. That's why we give you the links to the research papers and the source article itself to dive in and learn more, because we're just skipping a stone across the water of what's really a deep ocean of information for each of these articles.
For sure. And if you're watching the video portion, I finally found a part of the video that would make a lot of sense in what they're talking about with this whole article. It's being able to see the dilation of these little ink-filled sacs in the skin. It makes a lot of sense why they would be interested in this for display purposes.
Yeah.
So there you go. Very cool. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out more, check out the show notes. It's all right there. So good job. And, again, very different. I had not heard about that story before today's show. So there you go. Story number 1. Let's go ahead and skip on down to story number 2. And this one is, pretty relevant given if at all you've been covering, Ralph, it's not to dwell too long on it, but modern warfare, I guess when you think about, it's not just the Iraq war back in 2004, what have you. We have a more recent conflict, and the way and things that we've seen coming out of what's happening in Ukraine in particular, Ralph.
Yes.
It's warfare is not what it was. It's oddly enough, a lot of consumer drones. It's very small things. It's very technology oriented, which I think everyone knew was coming, but to see it in action is terrifying. But also, how do you save lives? How do you prevent these things from, just wreaking havoc? And story number 2 kind of speaks to that, not to, kind of bring up current political issues.
Right.
Shouldn't be much of one, but there you go. Not to bring up current political issues, but story number 2 kind of speaks to how technology is trying to answer the problems of technology in modern warfare. So, yeah.
Absolutely correct. And in fact, this story and the next one happen to be in military technology related areas. So the first one, though, comes from Interesting Engineering, one of my favorite go-to sources. Headline: U.S. soldiers get a smart rifle scope that can, and I added this, aim and help shoot enemy drones down on their own, because the original headline was get rifle scopes that shoot enemy drones on their own. Well, they do and they don't. We'll explain that to be a little more honest. Again, we have links in the show notes that take you to the article, but let's jump into this. In fact, if you're looking at the show notes, and again, if you're listening to us as a podcast, come out, get the show notes, because there's a great image taken from the company's website that developed this technology that has a 1, 2, 3, 4 steps on how this works. You can check that out. It's very, very well done in terms of explaining this. But here we go. In a significant technology leap toward countering small unmanned aerial drones, the U.S. Army has begun fielding the SMASH, S-M-A-S-H, SMASH 2000L, an artificial intelligence-enabled smart fire control system designed to give soldiers a precision edge against airborne threats. Drones is what we're talking about.
Ralph, we've talked about AI in almost everything, and not just research and university settings and cars and products, but I think a lot of people were afraid of AI in warfare, let alone AI in individual guns. That of course leads to a whole conversation, but this one seems at least, embedded in the scope, and,
right.
I don't know, but people were worried about this, but we all knew it was coming.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is fascinating and scary all at the same time in a way, but it is very interesting technology nonetheless. The system was demonstrated during a multinational live fire exercise where the device was affixed to an M4A1 carbine to engage drones in flight successfully. Now, developed by Israeli defense firm called Smart Shooter, and again, we have a link to their website. That's where we got the illustration I was referring to a moment ago. The SMASH 2000L system transforms a standard rifle into a high-precision anti-drone platform. That's their motive. And the system uses an AI-driven fire control unit equipped with electro-optical sensors, computer vision, and proprietary target acquisition software. Oh my gosh, this is complicated. Get this, Ben. The system scans, detects, locks on, and tracks small aerial targets such as quadcopters or fixed-wing drones. and only permits the rifle to fire when a guaranteed hit is computed. That's so interesting. Smart Shooter's system uses real-time image processing and automatic target recognition to help, and I want to stress, that's the key word here, to help shooters hit their targets accurately. It really doesn't somehow magically take over the soldier's body and move it against his or her will to aim. It helps them do this. That's a key. It also syncs, and this is interesting too, Ben, it also syncs recoil to ensure precise shots, even when facing fast and tricky aerial threats. Wow. I mean, the technology is fascinating. And certainly your point about Ukraine is so appropriate, because Lord knows the Russians have been sending hundreds of drones almost every night into the Ukraine. And if they had this ability to get some of the smaller ones, that could be very, very helpful.
Yep. And, they have a short 1-minute video up on their website that shows the technology in action. Of course, it's not just for drones. It's also for, just general warfare. So, be warned about that. But the end part of this video, though, shows, a soldier kind of going out in the road, kind of taking stance. And then you can see the drone up in the air, and you can see the what you would see through the scope. And it would, as soon as you're ready to lock on, I'm guessing you just, the little crosshairs come up, you pull the trigger, you're good to go. Very simple, very effective. I don't see how something like that isn't going to just become standard. It's, Ralph, it's like being able to hit your target. I mean, that's shooting 101. Deer out there, if there are any deer out there, your days are numbered. I don't know how much chance you had before this, but in general hunting, something like this, pheasants, deer, you name it, they're those wily things, Ralph, aren't going to be around for long.
You're right. There's no reason why that couldn't happen.
They have that one guy who's just using the training wheels of scopes, and that is pretty much it for hunting. But no, for military use, the applications are obvious, and you can definitely see it there up in the show notes. So go check that out. So with that being said, that is, and I apologize for the dog. Story number 2. Story number 3. Let's go ahead and jump into that one while I go take care of that. So story number 3.
Okay, you got it. So our next story also is military related. It comes from a very interesting outlet called nextgendefense.com. Headline: Can 3D printed skin save soldiers? Here's another skin related story, as our first story was. The U.S. Army thinks so. So again, can 3D printed skin save soldiers? This is a really fun story. Very, very interesting. The U.S. Army is teaming up with researchers at the University of Hawaii to explore how 3D printed skin and other lab-grown tissues could treat troops with chemical, biological, and burn-related injuries. Wow. The work is part of a new collaboration with the University of Hawaii aimed at taking bioprinting technology. What a key trend this is, Ben. You and I both know that from many stories in the past couple of years. So again, the program is aimed at taking bioprinting technology out of the lab and into the field, potentially offering life-saving tools in some of the world's most remote and high-risk zones. Wow, let that sink in.
Yeah, it's certainly something that, even though it may be developed for the military, this is, you can easily imagine the applications are, going to be for so many people out there.
Yeah, and the next little paragraph from the story is going to introduce something that I was not really that fully aware of. So here we go. Under the agreement, researchers are developing organ-on-a-chip systems. Let's find out about that. And bioprinted tissue models, such as layers of human skin, to better understand how the body responds to chemical and biological exposure. So, side note, I had to do this. And this is what I do with the show notes, folks, because the article didn't do this. I did it. I add this in to help me and to help you, I hope. So a side note, what are organ-on-a-chip systems? Also called microphysiological systems, are miniature devices that simulate the structure and function of human organs. The key here, simulate the structure and function of human organs. They're revolutionizing biomedical research by offering a more accurate, ethical, and cost-effective alternative to animal testing. If you're in the community that's very concerned about animals being used in science research and so forth, these organ-on-a-chip systems are coming more and more to kind of replace animal testing. So it's very interesting. In the show notes, I have some additional information you can geek out on organ-on-a-chip. Check it out. That's there in the show notes if you so desire, or organ-on-a-chip systems.
Yeah,
that is.
I think that has come up. Now that, thank you for the increased explanation, because that has come up in our show before about being able to test. At least in past mentionings on the show, it was about testing drugs and new drugs on organs on a chip, so that you didn't have to get living kidney flesh or whatever. You could just test, and you could cut development time by months or years. So
yeah, you're right. In fact, to segue just for a moment here, or a side mention here, two key trends. One is organoids. Organoids are actually like they're mini brains, actually creating mini human brains in the lab upon which they can test, as opposed to testing on animals. Okay. And it's even better because it's actually human tissue that they're testing. Now, these organ-on-a-chip systems are, for me, a little more of a new part of this equation where that's going on, as well as organoids. So in the world of medical research and so forth, there's those two trends, if you will, that are so interesting to watch. So going back to the story, though, the models they're developing by the Army and the University of Hawaii could one day help fast-track treatments for injuries caused by burns, poisonous gases, and drug-resistant bacteria on the battlefield. And under a broader research and development agreement between the U.S. Army and the University of Hawaii, the team plans to deploy bioprinters and other manufacturing tools in austere environments across the Indo-Pacific theater. And the aim to create this, this is so interesting. Just let this sink in. The aim is to create remote pop-up labs that can produce custom medical solutions on demand, boosting readiness in areas far from traditional support hubs. Oh, wow.
You could imagine, and we don't have to imagine that hard when you think about World War II and the Vietnam War and stuff like that. And that's just for warfare. You can imagine Ralph, there was a volcano that happened back in like the late 2019, 2018, something like that. And it injured dozens of sightseers and tourists that were out there visiting a remote volcanic island. Even something like that. Hey, you need a skin graft. You have a skin graft lab right there, almost on location. The applications are going to be, like you said, literally life-saving for parts of the world. So very, very cool.
Yeah, interesting stuff. And it's another good example, by the way, of the debt we owe to military technology research, which has so often historically rolled over to civilian uses, sort of like NASA. All of NASA's discoveries often rolling over and becoming useful in the real world, such as I think Velcro, was something that NASA developed, and then it rolls over and helps us in the regular day to day.
You can thank things like you said, Velcro, ballpoint pens. You can thank GPS. All of that, military and NASA alike. Great technological breakthroughs. So there you go.
Yeah.
Story number 3, and now story number 4. What a beautiful picture of a kidney, or at least an art rendition of a kidney. But there's a nice little tubular coming off it. So hey, let's find out how to. I guess, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out how to create a liver organoid, hey, this might be for you. So Ralph, let's talk about this.
Well, yeah, in our previous story, we were talking about organoids as part of a key trend, and here this story fits in perfectly. This comes from News Medical Life Sciences website and the Institute of Science Tokyo. And the headline here is, scientists create liver organoids with functional blood vessels. So the thing that you need to have an alarm bell go off in your head, a positive happy bell, is the ability to create liver organoids with functioning blood vessels. Wow. I mean, that's just a mind blower.
That has been like the holy grail. Like that's why we still have to, kind of farm them out to like pigs and whatnot to get like, heart transplants
Yes.
and organ transplants. Yeah, it's just the blood cells. That's never been done or never really been done well before. So
Yeah. Yeah. Getting the blood or circulatory system equipment, so to speak, into the organoid. You're right. This has been a tremendous challenge. So here's the story. Scientists from the Institute of Science Tokyo, and get this collaboration, Institute of Science Tokyo and Cincinnati Children's Hospital. I love collaborations like this, have developed liver organoids with working blood vessels, an advancement that addresses a long-standing challenge in tissue engineering, as you made a good point a moment ago. So let's get into some of the highlights of this. They have achieved functional vasculature using a novel 3D culture technique. Researchers guided 4 types of precursor cells to self-organize into liver organoids with proper blood vessel networks. And I said to myself, precursor cells, wait a minute, time out. I need some help. What are we talking about? Side note, a precursor cell is a type of cell that's partway along the journey from a stem cell to be a fully specialized cell. Fascinating. Now, a key medical application could be for treating hemophilia. These organoids produced clotting factors when tested in a hemophilia A mouse model. We talked about organoids and so forth helping us to get away from animal testing, but it's still there. The mice and rats, we owe you a huge, huge debt of gratitude. But again, these organoids produce clotting factors when tested in hemophilia A mouse model, suggesting potential for long-term treatment solutions for, of course, humans. The challenge addressed, the liver's complex blood vessels have been difficult to replicate in labs, limiting the use of organoids in studying and treating liver diseases. So this breakthrough from the folks in Japan and Cincinnati is so important, and why it matters. Unlike current hemophilia treatments requiring regular injections, these organoids may one day restore natural clotting factor production in patients. And there's so much more to this story. Please come out and get the show notes and check out the links.
For sure, yeah. And if you're watching the video portion, this is, I guess, from some of the research, and it's kind of hard to tell. It's a very bright, colorful, beautiful picture, but it shows, the layers of cells that they kind of printed, and it shows the green parts are growing up to the more oxygenated cells, and that kind of got them to promote the blood vessels, and make it grow on its own. Stuff like that. I mean, just looking at that picture, Ralph, it just looks like just visual chaos. But this is what you need to get these organoids to be actually thriving. So
yeah,
very, very cool. And again, like you said, in the show notes, you can find all of this. So, and as always, there's more to each story, but not only that, there's more to the entire show notes. If you are following along, because of course, again, you can find this on our site, you can of course see that there are honorable mentions after story number 4. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to at least give you the headlines and the sources where we can find these. If you just want more stories, more feel-good stories, well, Ralph doesn't just limit it to 4. He finds 4 extra every single week. And you can go out to the show notes, computeramerica.com, and you can find these right there. And hey, do a little bit of fun homework instead. So Ralph, let's at least give them the headlines like we said, and they can go out to the website and find more if they like.
Yeah, you got it. As always, we have 4 what we call honorable mentions. And the first one comes from an outlet called The Cool Down, which is on MSN. And the headline here is researchers use high-tech drones with exceptional vision to revolutionize how farmers grow food. And the subhead is farmers are looking for ways to assess their crops, to monitor and analyze their crops. A really interesting agricultural technology story. And by the way, if you think agriculture is boring, you think agriculture is just simple binary thing, just people out pulling up weeds. No. Technology is really, really coming on strong in the world of agriculture.
Yeah, so just you reading that, two things come to mind. First is one of my favorite drone slash agriculture stories that we've done in the past was the drone that had like built-in seeds, and it would actually like shoot them into the ground,
Yeah.
and a single drone could plant thousands of trees or crops or
There you
anything like
go.
that. And yeah, imagine farming by drone. It's just super cool,
Yeah.
Ralph. And then like second was just more of like a all over holistic thing. I'm thinking back when, we first started talking about consumer drones back in like
Yeah.
2012, 2013.
Yeah.
There was this whole issue of like privacy and, what if my neighbor has one? That was a conversation
Oh,
we had
right.
on the show often. Ralph, we are like so far past that, the issues of privacy, what can drones do? Where are they? Where can they operate? A lot of the debate has settled, and now we're focusing on, obviously the debate's settled, but the issues are still there. But we're focusing on the good, positive impacts of drones now, and that was just, just came to my mind. So, anyways,
Yeah.
first,
Yeah. Especially in the world of agriculture, drones are really coming on strong. It's a fun thing to watch, a great trend to watch. The next story is so perfect given what we just talked about with the development of liver organoids with viable vascular structures or blood vessels. Here's a story from Texas A&M, their website. Headline: Replicating real-life blood vessels to cure vascular disease. Another very uplifting, very inspiring medical technology story. Please come and check that out. That's a good one. I wish we had time to get into it. The next one comes from good old MIT, their news site. New fuel cell could enable electric aviation. Subhead: These devices could pack 3 times as much energy per pound as today's best EV batteries, offering a lightweight option for powering trucks, planes, or even ships. Wow. Check that story out.
Yeah, much needed and very, very cool. And hey, MIT, it's very, very prestigious. So hopefully we see that soon.
Well, and again, it reminds me, Ben, and you and I have covered this now for several years, the amount of research and looking at alternatives to lithium batteries or innovative uses or recycling, that the whole world of battery technology across the globe is so active and so exciting and so interesting. And this work from MIT that we just mentioned is another notch in the belt that's going to get us to a better future, I think. Our last honorable mention is also good old MIT, comes from livescience.com. This one's fun. MIT's high-tech bubble wrap turns air into safe drinking water, even in Death Valley. And again, Ben, a trend you and I have seen time and time again over the last several years is extracting water from the air, even in the desert. And this could be helpful for areas of the world that are in desperate need of water and, however, don't have the resources. This could be a technology that could be deployed and to help, along with many other technologies like this that are in the development around the world.
Something that even 100 years ago would have been complete science fiction, just turning a lot of water out of thin air. You can imagine all of the possibilities of, what that could do for drought-ridden areas and
Absolutely.
Climate change and whatnot. Ralph, all these big issues, they're going to be solved eventually. We will figure it out. But ladies and gentlemen, the music means that we're done, so we can't tell you all the answers to life right this minute. We have to wrap up the show. So, Ralph, I want to thank you so much for putting this all together and showing everyone that, hey, there's a lot of news out there that isn't just doom and gloom. No, this is all fun, inspiring, and of course, focus on technology and science, and it will, like you said, lead us to a better future. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out more, one last time, computeramerica.com, Ralph Bond, he has a whole segment right there at the top of our website, and you can find all of our past shows as well as the show notes right there. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Thank Ralph for joining us, and everyone, we will catch you here every Friday where we talk about science and technology trends. So until then, have a great day, have a great weekend, do something fun. We'll catch you next time. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.